So the reason that Cheri and I are doing this, and do I just do with that? There we go. Yep. Yeah. So, oh yeah. So objectives, to help participants feel confident and comfortable in in executing a plan for a project. And we hope that you will leave here with some basic skills, or at least picking our brains about the projects that we have managed or coordinated, and the tools and the strategies that we've used. And in the handout that you have, we've actually given you a couple of tools to help along the way. And the getting to know you. I feel like I'm only looking at half the room here, so I'm going to do this. So Cheri and I decided to create this thing together because we have very different backgrounds in project management. And I'll give you a few examples of mine, and then she'll give you a few examples of hers, and you'll see how our life experience has sort of sampled the range of projects. In my younger days, prior to gray hair and other things about aging that just kind of make your knees go wobbly, I had the privilege of coordinating some very large events. The part of the opening and closing ceremonies of the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. I got to be in the Coliseum, in the tunnel, as the torch came in. It was very exciting. I also got to coordinate a large part of Disneyland's 30th anniversary back in 1985, I think that was, and some other large events like that. And so I have had the opportunity to juggle as many as 1,800 volunteers. The Disneyland thing and the Olympics thing were both around balloons, and so tanker trucks full of helium and little circus tents full of kids filling up balloons. I mean, it was huge. Lots of moving parts, and all of it came in on time and under budget, and I'm very proud of that. Cheri's experience is quite different, but also as intense.
My experience is more with a lot of smaller projects, usually concurrently going on at the same time, and more development related as opposed to events. So, and a lot of different industries. So that's, yeah.
But can you talk about a couple of the places?
I worked for a health center. So we had a lot of software integration projects that went on. I've also worked for in the oil industry with some document control projects that occurred with multiple companies and in multiple countries. And then also a startup company. So we had a lot of really fast development that needed to occur in order to compete with the market at the time.
So the question that we have for you to find out who's in the room is, on a scale of 1 to 10, you can hold up fingers, or I don't want to take the time to go around the room, so hold up fingers. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you could take a project that is within the scope of the center in which you live and manage it from beginning to end? On a scale of 1 being, I wouldn't even know how to get out of bed that morning, to 10, I've done it 100 times and I'm very, very confident. So think about it for a second, and oh good, we got a 10 back there, that's great. 5, some 10s, some 9s, good. Excellent, excellent. Did I cover the questions that are in there? Mm-hmm. I'm not looking at the notes.
And what tools?
Oh yeah, and just not round robin, but just holler it out. What tools have you used? Do you use an Excel spreadsheet? Do you use Post-it notes? Do you use Asana? So just anybody who wants to shout out a tool that they use.
Dropbox.
Dropbox, good.
Excel.
Excel.
OmniSync.
OmniSync.
Paper.
Paper, nice.
More
That's
paper.
one of my favorite. Yeah, yeah, I love paper. Yeah.
Sticky notes.
Uh-huh.
A lot of charts and graphs. I mean, charts. Just,
Mhm.
you know.
Right. Yeah.
And Evernote.
Evernote. Good. And do any of you subscribe prescribe, I don't know what the word is, to a specific strategy.
Yes,
And
getting things done.
getting things done.
There it
Good.
is, it's GTD
Cool.
is what it's called.
Highest priority.
Oh, it's an
It's a
actual,
real-
yeah, getting things done. So, somebody else had something?
Highest priority, the
Oh.
most important task first.
Most important task first. Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Delegate.
Oh, delegate. Yeah, as in knowing how to delegate and follow up on
Sometimes
that.
have trouble delegating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
Good. Good. Next, I think.
And if Tom were here, I think he does the quadrants. I can't remember
Yeah.
what that's.
Oh, yeah. The quadrants, there's who remembers what the 4 quadrants are? The cell team should know this. They've gone over it so many times. Am I in frame, Eric?
Yeah,
Okay.
quadrant 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's like important, so yeah, there's these quadrants where there's different priority levels in them, and you sort of map that particular task in it and take care of quadrant 1 first, and then, yeah. That's a bit like Waterfall, which I'll be getting to later. Cheri?
Okay, so projects are usually something that are temporary, they're unique, and they have a beginning and an end. They're constrained usually by the 3 things: it's time and scope, and then also your cost or your budget. And a lot of times we think of cost as the overall budget, but it can also be labor. So the amount of time you're putting in can count in towards the cost of the project. Usually it's something that's going to make a change or that's beneficial in some way. You wouldn't want to take on a project unless you know it's going to be a positive outcome. And then also it's with specific goals and objectives. So you have this project, how do you manage it? There's lots of different ways. It's really, overall, it's a discipline in order to control and manage the project itself, and it can be done in a variety of ways. And we're going to talk about 2 of those ways.
So the 2 ways that are 2 of the most common or most used strategies for project management is Waterfall and Agile. And with the kinds of projects that I've done, Waterfall has served me very, very well. And so I'll start with Waterfall. Waterfall is called that because it's about creating pools of tasks that lead you to your ultimate execution of the event. And Waterfall can be things like, so each pool has a title, and all the tasks that go into fulfilling that title would fit into each pool. For instance, concept, resources, design, review, and deliver is a flow that could be used. Go ahead to the next one. So imagine you're building a 3-story house. The pools might be vision and concept, architectural drawings, revisions and approval from the client, construction drawings, permits, contractors, purchase materials, and finally build. And the reason I bring up this example is that Waterfall was created for the construction industry. Go ahead to the next one. Now, in your packet on the very first thing, the very first page is the waterfall that, it's the text page, is the waterfall that Cheri and I did to do the very first presentation itself. And you'll notice it doesn't look like pools. We just gathered things text-wise into the 5 different pools that we used, and we assigned tasks within those. So somebody said writing and paper, that's the way I love to work. I like Post-it notes, I like index cards, I like those sorts of things. And laying something out in a really simple text map is one of my favorite things to do. So that's how we did that. The principles of Waterfall is that you do not leave a pool until every task in it is done. And that construction or execution or the event does not happen until every pool has been completed. And this is what I love the most about Waterfall. no matter which pool you're in, if there is a decision to make a change in any pool, whatever pool you're working in, you have to go all the way back up to the top of the waterfall and make sure that all the boxes are checked again so that you don't create some unintended consequence. Like, for instance, if you're building a house, you've got all the plans done, you've actually started some construction, and then you decide, wouldn't it be lovely to have a spa on the second floor? But you didn't construct the first floor to hold the weight of a spa. So what happens in Waterfall is if a decision is made like that, you have to go all the way back up to the top. And the way that you make the decision as to whether or not that change will be made is by analyzing the cost, whether it's in time or labor, against the benefit of actually doing the change. And that's one of the reasons I really love it, because it stops you from keeping tweaking way down here, and suddenly you realize that that brilliant idea you had way at the end of the plan of the project, suddenly you've kind of destroyed the whole, something up here that you didn't even know about. And next. And then Agile.
So Agile hasn't really been around for that long. It sort of came out in 2001. It was put together by a group of software development industry leaders that wanted a quick way to get their products out instead of following the more traditional project management styles. And so basically it's more of a philosophy really than a process, and it's also can be combined with other types of project management. So when I first heard of it, I heard it as Scrum, and then it kind of made its way into Agile. Kanban is another one, and that's really more in the supply chain industry that they use for asset management. So you may hear it by different terms, but they're all sort of the same in the same group. So as a philosophy, the overview of that is it values interactions and individuals over the actual process of project management and the tools, and it also kind of considers actually working the project more important than basically the documentation of what you're doing. It also values collaboration over strict contract negotiation, and then also kind of want to be able to make changes as things come up and be able to change your plan without having it be an issue. So the daily meetings are part of the process, and they're usually called stand-up meetings. They're 1 to 2 minutes per person, and so that's why they want you to stand up so that you'll quickly go through. We've actually incorporated this into our meetings, although our meetings are 2 hours, so we do not stand up to do this piece of it. And so these are the three pieces. So you start out with, what are you doing now? What did you complete? And is there anything that's keeping you from getting that done? Any obstacles? So we're not going to go through all of these, but here are the 12 Agile principles. And these are actually in your handout. As you can kind of see, they're a little different than traditional project management. One of the main things is that this is kind of geared towards changes coming, and flexibility, which we know a lot about. So it says, welcome changing requirements. So that's mid-project. Things change, and we have to adjust for that. So because we still need some attributes of the classic project management, waterfall, and then also we want to do things more quickly, someone came up with a brilliant idea to do a hybrid of the two. So at the top here you can see waterfall. Those are each of the pools, and at the bottom you see agile, so you've got sort of your pools and then your reiterations within those pools, and they came up with a combination. I don't know if the term fragile is really what I would use. I actually think it's a stronger model to have the two incorporated together. So there are a lot of tools out there. You guys at the beginning of the meeting sort of gave some ideas about what you're using. We have Microsoft Office. There's a lot of templates that are out there and available. And collaboration tools, we use Dropbox. SharePoint is a Microsoft product that's really for very large corporations, it's pretty spendy. And then we all use Google Docs. Most of us here use it. We're using Asana as an online application. There are also many others out there. Many of them are free if you're just doing one project or just a couple of small projects. And some of them are for very minimal fee. Depending on what your requirements are, depends on what you would choose on that.
And one thing that to point out is that these tools don't lead you toward creating what's in your pools or the names of your pools.
Right.
This is after you've created your, what your work plan is. These are tools for tracking the progress and making sure that you stay on track.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, I didn't plan for this.
Maybe we can just talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if the easiest way to do this to see what's available, besides just searching, doing an online search, is to go to Word, and when you start a new document, when you get to your template screen, type in project. And anything that's available will come up. There's project charters, there's to-do lists, there's lots of templates that are readily available. You can do the same thing in Excel, just type in the word project and it'll pull up what's out there and available to you. Gantt charts, I think there's a couple other things like that available.
I was really surprised, all these years working, opening Excel and opening Word. I never knew that you could search the template and they would have, search the template screen. And the templates that come up are really wonderful and varied, so you can choose one that really resonates with you. So we thought we'd do an activity, and we're really good in time, so this is terrific. First of all, before we get started with the activity, which is to get into little groups of like 3, and decide on a project that, just whether it's a project that you're actually working on, or we've given you some suggestions, writing for a grant, developing web pages for a project, a regional conference, or something non-work related like planning a vacation or a birthday party. So what we'd like for you to do is to just get together in 3s and or 4s if that's what's needed, and just choose a topic, and we're going to focus on waterfall. So just choose a topic and together create the names or the overall topics of 5 or whatever the number of pools you would need to go from beginning to end. And then just for the first 2 pools, put in the tasks you think would need to happen to accomplish and to move out of that pool and into the next one. Okay? So before we do that, though, any questions about Waterfall? Because that's what you're about to be playing with. Yeah, Gary.
So is Waterfall designed to be done, these pools, are they sequential always?
Yes.
Or are they isolated? Can they be standalone, or do they always fall within a sequence?
In pure Waterfall, they would always fall within the sequence. In the hybrid, there very well could be a sort of a waterfall within that is standalone that maybe needs to happen somewhere along the timeline, but it doesn't matter where. But in pure Waterfall, it would do that. Yeah. And since we are so good on time, one of the things I wanted to mention is that I gave you the example of building a house, that you wouldn't start building a house and then start changing the design unless you knew beforehand that, we're going to build a little 1-bedroom, but eventually once the kids are, or once we start having kids, we're going to add. So you'd put those plumbing and electric there. That would be in your plan to do that extension later. But in constructing a house, you really want to be you want to know what the whole thing's going to look like before you start. Now, with a website, for instance, and this is one of the reasons that I have such a struggle, tension, when I work with web developers, because they really do need to work agile, and my life needs Waterfall. But with web design, for instance, if you're creating a big multi-dimensional module, Sometimes you really do want to build just the first section because you need to test it, see if it works, and you can use all that coding with almost a simple copy and paste to build the next one. And so Agile is really, really very effective in web design because there's so many elements in the first one that need to be tested. Did it work? Is this what the client wanted? Is this what you really meant? Before you go and build the rest. Okay. So we're just going to focus on waterfall, or you could do the hybrid if you feel as if you're doing steps in Agile and you want to put waterfalls in the middle. But let's see what happens if you get together with threes, choose an event of your own liking, and create 5 topic areas that lead you to the end and fill in the tasks on 2 of them. Okay? Clear enough? And we're here to answer questions if you need them. And we're going to give you about 10 or 15 minutes on this.
When I think of these, I think of all the processes and everything.
My husband only 6 weeks a year from December, so I haven't and we've never really taken a vacation together outside.
All right, let's come back together.
We should have planned a birthday party.
Gary just said we should have planned a birthday party. They're solving all of the QRIS statewide issues in their waterfall. Okay, so what we'd like to have done is for each group to report out what was the event or whatever it was that you were planning. What were your 5 pools, and what were the tasks in, like, say, the first pool? Can we start here?
Yes, Nate, we can.
Well, we need a lot of help.
Faster to learn about delegation from,
Yes. Well, yeah, I submitted that we should do something a little more difficult than we probably should have, but we want to do the QRS revision, kind of talk a little bit about that. So our 5 pools were field test, the analysis of what's currently going on, what we need to do, or what needs to change, how the changes are going to be made, and then making the changes, and that ultimately leads up to QRS 2.0.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of the things in your first pool?
The first pool, we were identifying standards, portfolio.
And remind us of the
Excuse me.
title of the first pool again?
The first pool.
What's happening currently?
Yeah,
What's happening currently.
It's
Good,
the
okay.
Current field test version right now. And then within that, analyzing what are in the standards, the portfolio itself, the recruitment, and then ratings, incentives, rating and monitoring, and then marketing publicity.
Mm-hmm. Good. How'd it feel?
It's
Mucky.
Yeah.
Get some traction there.
I
So.
think we were struggling with the idea of what's the pool and what is the task?
Mhm.
How do you determine whether it is big enough to be a pool, or is it just a sub thing of a task? And can they happen concurrently, or do they have to happen sequentially?
Those are the questions that they asked, and my answer was that if a task has subsections, it may very well be a pool. That if the task can be done just by doing that one thing, then it's a task within a larger one. But if there are subsections to it, it's a pool. Yeah. And the concurrent, for instance, we were talking about, all right, so if you can be doing all of this research, but if you already know that you're going to be meeting up next November and you need a facility that has these requirements, this many people, this much catering and all of that stuff, then you probably could be looking for that concurrently. But if anything you find out within these pools might change that, wait, if you can, if the calendar lets you wait. Next team.
Sybil delegated to me.
Uh-huh.
We decided to plan a vacation.
Oh, yay!
It was hard to stretch this into 5 pools, but we did. Choosing the destination was the first pool. The logistics of the trip was the second pool. Going on the trip was the third pool. Coming back and forcing everyone to relive your vacation memories was the fourth pool. and planning your next vacation was the fifth pool.
Nice, nice. So what was in your first pool?
The first pool was
Remind us what it was?
choosing our destination. Was when are we going? What is everyone's budget to help us determine where we can go? What everybody wants to do or wants to get out of the vacation, and then coming to the consensus of where we're going at the end.
Excellent. Did you do a second pool?
We did.
Uh-huh.
That was the logistics, so it was planning airfare, lodging, organizing travel documents, telling Ella we were leaving.
Ella's probably saying that should have happened first, but that's all right.
We're gonna sneak it in. Pet care, child care, home care, getting tickets to events, making reservations.
Nice, nice. Great. How'd it feel?
Oh, that vacation was great. All the booze.
Yeah.
It is a good planning tool just in terms of thinking, oh, well, if we want to do things on vacation, we might need tickets for those. So
Right.
it is kind of an intuitive process in terms of
Yeah.
what would come next and sort of where you'd put it in the lineup.
What I like about this process is that you're thinking about it without being panicked about it. It's the pre-planning and not putting out fires, you know. Next team?
We decided to do removing wallpaper.
Oh, wow. Is that a task one of you is facing? Oh, yeah.
This process.
No, way too much.
So our 5 buckets were research, design, resources, action, and wrap up.
So
So
research, design, resources, action, and wrap up. Good.
So under research, we would look up YouTube tutorials on how to
Good YouTube
wallpaper.
tutorials. Yeah.
How to do it, what it involves, what kind of materials we need. So then the design would be, okay, how are we gonna do this? What kind of time constraints are we gonna hit? What rooms are we gonna do first? And so kind of plan and make a strategy.
I would add, where are you going to get your friends and how much pizza and beer are you going to have to buy? Yeah. Oh, that's in the next, that's resources. Oh, there we go. That's right.
So the resources are people and materials. When are we gonna get those? How? And then action is start the process. You go through it.
Yeah.
Wallpaper. And then wrap up is cleanup, thank yous, and feedback.
And I didn't hear pizza and beer anywhere in there, but I'm sure it would have run. So how'd it feel? How'd it feel?
Good. It was
I
ready.
still have no idea what we're starting in.
Oh, but that's in pool 1? What room to start in? In 2.
Nine.
Yeah. So don't even think about that. That's the other thing I really like about Waterfall is you don't even have to think about that one because you're still focusing on the tasks in pool 1. So it's about not having to think about. It's like when you walk into the kitchen and it's an absolute mess. My kitchen. It's looking at, I don't have the time or the energy to do that, but if you find, I'm going to rediscover the sink, then that I can do, you know. Next team.
Okay, well,
That's all right.
we went one step further than
Okay.
planning a vacation. We relived a vacation. We revisited, how did that happen? And so, I'm so glad you guys went first though, because now you gave me actual cool category names.
Yeah.
So, the research part, our research pool turns out, was consulting a travel agent in the first place, and then also with the people that we knew we were gonna be seeing. The design of it involved definitely collaborative planning because it was my family, 2 teenagers and my husband and I, so there had to be a lot of buy-in to what was going to happen and what was realistic. And so part of using our resources was prioritizing and really finding out, if TripAdvisor says, let's do these 7 things in 2 days, what's realistic about how we're going to do that. And then we created a framework of events, sort of, but we monitored and adjusted throughout, so it wasn't like we're rigid to that.
Oh, nice.
And so the action part of it was that whole monitor and adjust as we're there. And if something rose to the surface as, let's try this, let's do this, then we had that because we already had that framework of what was possible and the original plan.
Nice. So how'd it feel?
Freaking awesome.
You liked the vacation.
Vacations are good.
Great.
Did you notice a
Yeah.
trend here?
Yeah.
Linda?
Vacation and home improvement.
Well, it was her family vacation
Yeah.
that we were talking about. And so, but I was really impressed with the ability to have a pretty clear plan when you hit the road, but also build into that plan that flexibility.
Right.
Like, wait, we're getting too tired here, or,
Mhm.
man, we didn't know that was over there, let's do that instead.
Mm-hmm.
The going ahead and having that in the plan would have made me a much more relaxed vacationer, if I was going along on that trip.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Great.
So we went one step even further, and I already have Ella in our group, so she's already bought into my husband's 60th birthday celebration. Yay! She might even want to come with us, she said.
Where are we going?
So the concept is that it's my husband's 60th birthday. We've never been on a big vacation, and so that's the goal. We don't know the destination, but the goal at this point is just something, because I have a full year. So we the pools were the concept, and then the resources, and then creating the trip, and then traveling. We didn't really have a follow-up one yet. So that was the concept, and the resources are colleagues because a lot of people here have been traveling, friends of mine, the internet.
So what's the first pool was concept, right?
Yeah.
So is that, can you give us what's in concept?
A 60th birthday vacation for my husband.
But what could be under that?
What are the tasks?
What are the tasks in creating the concept of it?
Right. So, well, we wrote down things like what am I going to do when I'm gone? Thinking about the home, work. That's what we put in there. Is that not right?
Yeah. No. Well, I don't want to do a right or wrong. I'm just thinking that creating the concept, you might be looking at things like, what are his favorite things?
Yes.
What are
Bucket list was the next one on there. Yeah.
Oh, but that's inside concept.
Inside concept.
Is bucket list. Right, that's what I was asking. What are the things
Yes.
inside concept?
Yes, it's more about
good.
what he wants
Yes,
than what I
right.
want.
Cool. Isn't that sweet?
Well, I have to like it too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
Similar things that we already heard.
Yeah,
Travel
I didn't mean to
agent,
interrupt you.
Resources, books, all of those
Yeah.
things. Looking at activities we want to do. Getting immunizations, things like that. And then creating it. And Ella said think about things like tolerance of ambiguity. So thinking about the language that might be spoken. Is that comfortable? What kind of, do we have to take a boat out to an island? Is that comfortable for us? So things like that. So there's a lot of little things to think about. And yes, and what Linda said is like, for some of us, that if this is a new experience especially, then this would give me especially a lot of comfort.
Right,
to then be able to move forward to do something like this.
Good. How'd it feel?
How did it feel?
I'm excited for you.
We're all looking forward. They were so supportive. I got so excited about it.
And the process? I mean, because one of the questions now is what went well, what was confusing, and do you think that you would use this tool? Do you think that you would use this process to plan something?
What I'm sitting here struggling with is that, I try to be a logical person with all of my decisions. And, you threw us into this thing, with like the option to think of any of the decisions that lie ahead, and be logical about it. Because that's what you're talking about, I think here, is just
I
be
think you're right.
logical about it. So I think I'm just being challenged to realize that really should go ahead and get written down, not just be in my head or,
Right.
and the comfort that comes from that. That's I'm just kind of like, just get it all written down and then share the load and
Yeah.
and then be ready to revise it.
Right.
Anyway, so I appreciate the encouragement to go with that need for logic.
Yeah. And the writing it down. Logic and being sequential.
Yes.
Are two things that to me really make big projects much easier to do. Cheri wanted to, do they have that handout?
Yeah, as another tool option, there is a handout after the Fragile handout. If you'll go to the back page of that, you'll notice that these are examples of kind of Agile setups.
So there's a second side
Yeah,
to that
flip it over.
page.
You'll see,
Turn that page over.
The top
There
says
you
ready,
are.
working,
Yeah.
ready to test, and complete. Corey, flip yours, the sheet you're holding, flip it over. Yep. So this right here, their pools, if you think of it that way, would be statuses. So they know that they have to move through these 4 statuses on every single thing that they're doing. And so and you would see this, if you walked into a development center, you would see this where they would have, on the board here, they would have these 4 columns, and they would have literally Post-it notes, so that as they're moving through, they would pick that Post-it note and move it to the next. So you have a visual idea of where you're at on everything. So just as an alternative method, I just wanted to offer that.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. We press that button. So these are just some final thoughts to leave you with. And so facilities prep list is so these are some things to think about when you're trying to get to a facility. And these were thought out in not the heat of the moment, but something to do way beforehand. Who's the contact person? Who's the one person who will know everything about the event? So this is just something for you to look through and for you to have in your own file for how do you make sure that the facility is going to work for you. Because it's really hard to realize that a half an hour before you're about to do an event, you were supposed to get an insurance certificate to the facility, or finding out after you ordered 18 pizzas that you can't bring food into this facility. Those are the kinds of things to get done first. The next thing is the checklist. And what I say about checklists is the checklist, just like, oh, thank you. Just like what Linda was saying about, you write it down and you just then, it's there, you know it. You don't have to try to dig at remembering what comes next. This is a checklist that Kathy Thomas created when we were both working down in Eugene at CBERT, the Center on Brain Injury Research and Training, which used to be part of TRI. This is a checklist that she created for whenever we were doing a conference or a presentation somewhere. And it's pretty darn complete. And if you just use this checklist, and even as you're brainstorming in your meetings, add in the blank space anything that's unique to this particular one that you need. That way that you actually look at things, you pack things up before you have to dash to the car and get out, So checklists and thinking beforehand. The next thing is called scope creep. And when managing a project, or even creating an event or a project, one of the things that I think is really important is to go back to why are we doing this? What is the main intent of doing it? And if something that you're thinking about adding to the event doesn't attach to your main purpose, it's probably a different event. So scope creep is what happens when everybody gets together and has these wonderful brainstorms, and suddenly this birthday party that you were creating becomes a block party or becomes a national event, because it just kept, well, if we're doing that, we might as well add this, and what if we add this? So to be able to keep yourself focused on what you're actually trying to do instead of what needs to be done in the world that we might be able to do as long as we're there. So it's called scope creep. And maintain your initial goal and do things that attach to that goal. There's a term called holding the book. And that means, it's kind of like on a lot of the projects here at TRI, I'm the person who holds the book. It's like the 21st Century Community Learning Center modules that we just created. So we just created these 2 orientation modules for these after-school and preschool, or before-school and after-school programs. That just is an initial overview of what the 21st Century Community Learning Centers are and what the primary functions of your responsibility as being a staff person there. I'm not somebody who knows that content, but I was asked to create the pools, create the tasks, and just keep reminding people where they are on the task and get us there, hopefully on time and under budget, the old expression. So the person who, so I don't care what wonderful tool you use or how many pools and things that you create. If it ends up in your underwear drawer and nobody looks at it again, it's not going to get you to the goal. You know? So have somebody, and it doesn't need to be a project director, it doesn't need to be a project coordinator, just somebody on the team who is the keeper of the calendar, who just looks through and says, okay, by this date we were supposed to have these things done. Where are we? So that you can make adjustments on your schedule. So somebody to hold the book. You can have the best tool, but if nobody picks it up and uses it, you're not going to get the wallpaper down. People managing skills. This is something that for me, it's the only thing that keeps me at a job, is when I'm respected by these things that I think are the highlight of people management skills. Assume everyone is doing their best, always. That each person makes an important contribution. Acknowledge the different work and communication styles, and as the person who is managing the project, I make the adjustment, not them. That if there's somebody who loves email, that's the way I'll communicate. If there's somebody who likes one-on-one, that's the way I'll communicate. Because I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be in their sweet spot doing their job. Micromanage at your own risk. And the reason for that is that usually the people on the team are people who know more about the task that they're doing than I do. Let them do it. Let them do it. And the one thing, the big thing for me is remind everyone on the team that asking for help when it's needed is part of the plan. That if you've got a task on your plate and you realize I'm not going to be able to get to it, it's absolutely legitimate to say that 3 weeks ahead of time, or 2 weeks, but waiting till it was deadline and all of a sudden saying, you know, I just had so much on my plate I didn't get to it. Part of the plan is to say, I need help with this, you've given me too many tasks, or this is something out of my sweet spot, I can't do this. That's part of the plan. So, and then applying the project management skills.
And here I kind of had two points to make. One is that everyone has project management skills. Everyone has managed a project, whether it's making a meal, which is a project, it has beginning and end, and whether volunteer work or planning a personal event, those are project management skills. So when you find a style that works well for you and allows you to succeed, then use that. Find whatever it is, whatever it's waterfall, fragile, or agile, just pick something that works well and use that and apply it throughout your personal and work life.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's 10 o'clock and I think we're done. Any questions? This was fun for us. We were nervous at the beginning, but good.